How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Mm, Except for technology stuff.
Oh, I totally
um,
understand.
I'm good. How have you been since we've seen each other last?
I've been okay. I think I've been trying to keep pushing it at work, even though I've been feeling so sick so often. So I'm trying to put on a brave face there, but it's been super tiring trying to act like everything's totally fine, which kind of makes me more anxious to pretend like everything's fine. So it's always a little bit tough when I go into work usually.
Yeah, that's tough. That really is tough. Have you had any instances this week where you've tried to maybe cut back a little bit?
I have. After we talked about it, I got a little motivation to try, but it hasn't been working too well. I'll try early in the night and then try to push through it, but I can usually have trouble sleeping without it, so I'll just ramp up the amount of drink. So it usually is the same amount, no matter how much I try. But it of course, just makes me more nervous when I don't. So it's a nasty cycle to be
Yeah,
stuck in.
yeah. Do you notice like how you're feeling before you're drinking that's making you kind of want to go that route? Like what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of stress and anxiety and not really having anything else that I know to relieve it, if that makes sense. So it's very much kind of that one thing that actually calms my body because it's obviously a drug and a depressant. So it does a really good job at calming me down. So it's more so maybe some laziness on my part, not trying other things like exercise or music and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say you have anxiety and stress and stuff, have you suffered from that like since you were younger, or is this just a recently started happening?
That's a good question. I think it's been since I was younger. Um, I don't know my family very well, but I think some of it is genetic. Um, so I think I noticed it as a kid, but at the time I used different mechanisms of coping, like self harm and kind of when I was a teenager, like reckless driving. But for some reason now it's been alcohol and just more unhealthy choices as well.
Okay, well, do you feel like you kind of want to self-harm recently or any other time?
Sometimes I think, well, sometimes when I either the my money is tight or I don't have access to alcohol at the moment, I think I'll have to have that kind of physical relief. So that's been it's been on my mind a little bit, but nothing in the realm of like suicidal thoughts, more so just like that physical relief that kind of comes with self-harm sometimes.
Oh, yeah. So not genuinely to want to die, just to get a kind of a relief.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. Mhm.
Do you kind of do any self-harm that makes that kind of relief besides the alcohol? I know you were saying not really recently, but like what do you mean how recent?
I would say I cut back a lot when I was a teenager and it only kind of resurfaced um somewhat recently, I'd say within the last 2 years, so kind of around the time when I started my new job and kind of had a little bit of life changes like getting a different apartment and just kind of being in a place of transition in my life, so like new apartment, new job, kind of new area. So I think that's been a kind of manifesting because of that a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. So if you could pick on a scale from 1 to 10, um, how how stressful do you think that your alcohol causes you, or how much stress do you think alcohol causes you? From 1 to 10, 1 being the least, 10 being the most.
Ooh, I would say recently, now that it's gotten pretty bad, I'd say on a good day it'd be a 7, but usually probably an 8 or a 9. Just because I feel like I'm barely keeping my job. Like I'm worried I'm like one step away from getting let go. So that's kind of that feels like the peak if I get fired because of it a little
Yeah. So it's just what I'm hearing is a lot of stress, a lot of
bit.
anxiety. It would just
Definitely.
so what do you think would be helpful in that kind of area to help kind of fix or help you cope? Or is that what you're kind of looking for?
I would say if I had to like label goals for coming to therapy, I would definitely love to try to reduce the alcohol use, but that definitely does kind of scare me a little bit because I don't know anything else. So I would love to learn some new coping strategies. And maybe I guess in relation to that, some ways to manage anxiety. So hopefully the anxiety, if I don't have it, doesn't lead to the alcohol. So kind of stopping it before it
Yeah,
gets there would be great. Yeah.
yeah. And did your kind of jumping around here, but do you have any history of mental illness in your family?
Yes, I think so. My father and his mother, so my grandma, both had alcoholism, and my mom has like excuse me, OCD and anxiety. So I think I kind of got the middle ground between the two. But other than my grandparents, I don't know that far back in the mental illness history. But it's pretty telling just with my parents, at least.
And uh your education, and you had said you had went to school, right? But then the anxiety
Yes.
got kind of a little bit bad.
Mhm. Definitely. I think it was a community college where I used to live. I forgot the name, but I think I finished 1 year out of the two just for an associate's degree, and then I stopped showing up, which of course affected my grades. So I left school.
Yeah. And family wise, you said you're
Mhm.
kind of estranged from your family quite a bit. So you don't
Mhm.
have any contact with them. But
Mhm.
you did have that one friend, that family friend that you talked about, that you can still go to her and talk to her about things. That's good. Have you
Yes.
recently went to her and talked to her about some things?
I did. She was very, very nice, but since we're in such different places, like she's a new mom and she's very stable with like a husband, I try not to I kind of feel embarrassed to reach out because I'm in such a different place in my life, but she's definitely always there to offer. I just kind of feel embarrassed sometimes to reach out and kind of make that first step.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think like back to your goals, we're gonna go back to that. So for your treatment goals, to lessen that alcohol use and to kind of cope with the anxiety better. That's
Hmm.
what I'm hearing, the two biggest goals that you kind of want to get out of this.
Hmm.
And we can reach those goals, we can talk about different medicated supportive recovery that you can utilize that can help with those detox symptoms that you were talking about the last session. So that way
Hmm.
it might be an easier transition. Or we can talk about other options like inpatient or outpatient, and we
Hmm.
can always figure things out, life out around
Hmm.
those things, just long as you're getting better. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be one or the other. There's so many different paths to recovery that you could choose, and we'll find a way there. We just have to just keep working towards getting to know each other, and we'll
Hmm.
figure it out as we get closer to those, knowing each other better, to how we're going to reach those goals and things like that. So I think those are great goals. Are kind of running out of time because I talked a lot and asked a lot of questions, so I'm
Love
sorry,
it. That's totally okay.
um but I think we have a meeting next week, and
Hmm.
we'll just talk about the rest then.
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.